Carl Sagan once said that the cosmos is within us, that we are made of star stuff, and that we are a way for the universe to know itself. This profound idea captures the very heart of our deepest curiosity, a longing to reach out and understand our place in the grand tapestry of existence. For all of human history, we have looked up at the night sky and wondered if we are truly alone, if somewhere out there in that vast, dark ocean of stars, another set of eyes is looking back, contemplating the very same mysteries. But what if we are not just looking for simple life? What if we are searching for beings so far beyond our own understanding, so unimaginably advanced that their very existence would reshape everything we think we know about reality itself? This is not a search for little green men. This is a journey into the realm of civilizations that could be millions, even billions of years older than our own. Today, we are embarking on a speculative adventure to explore 25 theories about alien civilizations far more advanced than us. We will venture beyond simple science fiction and into the edges of credible scientific thought, where concepts that sound like pure fantasy are taken seriously by physicists and cosmologists. Imagine societies that have harnessed the energy of entire stars, that have transcended their biological forms to become something entirely new, or that have learned to manipulate the very fabric of space and time. These are not just possibilities, they are potential futures for any intelligence that survives long enough to master the universe. The gap between our current technology and what might be out there is so vast that it defies easy comprehension. And that is precisely what makes this exploration so thrilling. So get comfortable and open your mind to the extraordinary. We are about to dive into a world of cosmic megastructures, post-biological consciousness, and realities layered upon realities. This journey will challenge your perceptions of what is possible, and it will invite you to ponder the ultimate fate of intelligence in the cosmos. Each theory we uncover is a piece of a much larger puzzle, a glimpse into a potential future that is both awe-inspiring and humbling. Let's begin this exploration together and see just how strange and magnificent the universe might truly be. Our journey into the unknown begins with a framework for understanding just how vast the gap between us and a truly advanced alien society could be. In the 1960s, Russian astrophysicist Nikolai Kardashev proposed a simple yet profound way to classify civilizations not by their politics or culture, but by something far more fundamental, their total energy consumption. This concept, now known as the Kardashev scale, gives us our first real glimpse into the potential hierarchy of intelligence in the cosmos. At the bottom, we have a Type 1 civilization, a culture that has achieved complete mastery over its home planet. This means they can harness all of the energy that falls on their world from their parent star, control the weather, and perhaps even command the planet's tectonic forces. Humanity, for all our technological marvels, doesn't even register as a full Type 1 yet. We are still a Type 0, drawing our energy from dead plants and fossilized fuels, a nascent society just beginning to tap into the power available to us. The next step is where the scale truly expands into the extraordinary. A Type 2 civilization has graduated from planetary mastery to stellar mastery. This is a society that doesn't just live on a world orbiting a star. It lives with a star as its primary power source. The most famous theoretical megastructure associated with this level is the Dyson sphere, a vast swarm of satellites or a solid shell completely enclosing a star to capture nearly 100% of its energy output. But their ambitions wouldn't stop there. A civilization of this magnitude might engage in star lifting, a process so immense it's hard to fathom. They would literally mine their own sun for raw materials, using advanced technology to draw off stellar plasma to build more structures or to extend the star's lifespan. Their engineering projects would be on a solar system-wide scale, rearranging planets and asteroids to suit their needs. Our entire global energy output would be less than a flicker compared to the roaring furnace they commandeered. But to find a civilization far more advanced than us, we must look to the highest tier on Kardashev's scale, the Type 3 civilization. This is a society that has transcended its home solar system and achieved mastery over its entire host galaxy. The energy available to a Type 3 is beyond human comprehension. We are talking about harnessing the output of hundreds of billions of stars. Imagine a network of Dyson spheres so vast and numerous that they dim the galaxy's light in the infrared spectrum, a potential signature we could actually search for with our telescopes. Their engineering would be galactic in scope. They might build bridges between stars, create artificial habitats on a scale that makes planets seem quaint, or even manipulate the orbits of star clusters. For a Type 3, a supernova might not be a cataclysm but a manageable energy source or a tool for galactic landscaping. The very structure of the Milky Way could be a reflection of their will, a carefully curated garden rather than a wild and random collection of stars. Our greatest achievements, the International Space Station, the Large Hadron Collider, the Internet, would appear to them as the scratchings of a child in the sand, utterly insignificant next to their cosmic symphony of power and control. If a Type 3 civilization represents the ultimate expression of power in our physical universe, then our second theory presents a radically different, almost paradoxical, destination for advanced intelligence. This is the transcension hypothesis, a concept that suggests the most mature civilizations don't spread across the galaxy in massive starships. Instead, they turn inward, embarking on a journey of such profound transformation that they effectively vanish from the cosmos we perceive. The core idea is that technological advancement inevitably leads not to outward colonial expansion, but to an inward migration, a transcendence of biological form into a post-biological state. Think of it not as an extinction, but as an evolution, a graduation from the crude, slow-paced world of flesh and blood into a realm of pure consciousness and information. This digital universe they would create, often conceptualized as a matryoshka brain, would be a computational substrate of staggering complexity, built around a star and designed to host minds that live in realities of their own making, at speeds 1 billion times faster than our own. This hypothesis offers a compelling and elegant solution to one of the most haunting questions in science, the Fermi Paradox. If the universe is so vast and so old, teeming with potentially habitable worlds, then where is everybody? The great silence, the apparent emptiness of the cosmos, might not be a sign of our loneliness, but rather a sign that we are simply too early or too primitive to see what is really happening. Civilizations that reach a certain technological tipping point may inevitably choose to transcend. They would leave behind the limitations of the physical universe, the tyranny of distance, the fragility of the body, the slow creep of entropy, for a simulated existence of near-infinite possibility and subjective eternity. To such beings, the physical cosmos of stars and planets would seem like a barren, empty desert, while their inner digital worlds would be lush, vibrant landscapes of thought and experience. They wouldn't be ignoring us. From their perspective, the entire external universe would have become irrelevant. This inward turn changes the very nature of what we should be searching for. Instead of looking for radio signals or massive engineering projects, perhaps the evidence of these transcended civilizations is far more subtle. They might leave behind technological relics or autonomous probes, not as active beacons, but as silent, watchful sentinels. Or the transition itself might produce a detectable signature, a brief, intense burst of energy or a specific pattern of infrared radiation as a star is converted into a computational engine before its light winks out from our perspective, having been fully enveloped and internalized. The universe might be filled with these cosmic ghost towns, star systems that once pulsed with transcendent activity but now appear dark and quiet to outside observers, their inhabitants long since departed for realities we cannot access or even imagine. But what if the silence from the stars isn't a sign of absence or transcendence, but one of deliberate and careful observation? This brings us to our third theory, a fascinating and somewhat humbling idea known as the zoo hypothesis. Imagine our entire planet not as a lonely outpost, but as a carefully curated exhibit in a vast interstellar nature preserve. The hypothesis suggests that advanced alien civilizations are fully aware of our existence, but they have made a collective, ethical decision to isolate us, to place Earth and humanity off limits in a kind of cosmic quarantine. The motive isn't malice or indifference, but something akin to the principles behind our own terrestrial wildlife sanctuaries, a desire to allow a developing culture to evolve naturally, free from the disruptive and potentially catastrophic influence of a more powerful, technologically superior society. This idea naturally leads to the concept of a galactic club, a hypothetical federation of advanced civilizations that have agreed upon a universal set of rules or a prime directive for interacting with emerging intelligences like our own. The primary rule of this club would likely be strict non-interference. Just as anthropologists studying an uncontacted tribe in the Amazon strive to remain hidden to avoid contaminating the culture, a galactic society might see our tumultuous, creative, and often chaotic development as something precious to be protected. Our struggles, our art, our scientific discoveries, even our wars, all of it represents a unique, untampered data stream of a civilization in its infancy. To make contact would be to irrevocably alter that experiment, to collapse the wave function of our natural cultural evolution. They might be waiting for us to reach a specific technological or ethical milestone, like achieving a stable, global civilization or mastering sustainable fusion power before they even consider ringing the doorbell. The reasons for such a policy are profound when you consider our own history. Look at what happened to indigenous cultures on Earth when they were suddenly confronted with more technologically advanced explorers. The results were often devastating, involving cultural collapse, disease, and subjugation. A truly advanced and presumably wise civilization would be acutely aware of this power imbalance. Their very presence, their knowledge, their technology, all of it would be so far beyond our comprehension that it could shatter our religions, paralyze our scientific endeavors, or trigger global panic. They might be withholding contact not to be secretive, but to be kind, giving us the time and space we need to mature and overcome our own self-destructive tendencies, like nuclear warfare or ecological collapse on our own terms. From their perspective, a humanity that has learned to manage its own planet and live in peace with itself is a humanity ready for an introduction to the galactic community. Until then, we remain the most fascinating show in the cosmos, watched from the shadows by beings who understand that the greatest gift they can give us is our own independent future. Now, let's take a profound and perhaps unsettling step further into the unknown with our fourth theory, the planetarium hypothesis. This idea pushes beyond the concept of a galaxy-wide zoo and suggests that the entire cosmic stage upon which we observe everything, every distant galaxy, every quasar, even the faint echo of the Big Bang itself, might be an illusion. What if our observable universe is not the vast, wild frontier we believe it to be, but rather an impossibly sophisticated simulation, a planetarium of cosmic scale, engineered by a civilization whose technological prowess is indistinguishable from godlike power? This isn't just about hiding individual stars, this is about fabricating the entire celestial dome above our heads. The core of this hypothesis rests on a staggering technological capability. A civilization that has reached a level far beyond a Type 3 on the Kardashev scale might have learned to manipulate the very substrate of reality. They could be using astronomical amounts of energy to project a consistent, believable history of the universe directly into our scientific instruments and our senses. Think of it as the ultimate virtual reality, but one we are born into, with its laws of physics and its pre-recorded cosmic background radiation all part of the carefully rendered code. They wouldn't need to build a shell around every star. Instead, they could manipulate space-time and energy on a fundamental level to create the perfect mirage of an expanding 14-billion-year-old cosmos, all for an audience that has no idea it's sitting in the grandest theater imaginable. This leads us directly into the philosophical abyss. If the planetarium hypothesis were true, it would force us to confront the very nature of reality and our place within it. Our entire scientific endeavor, from cosmology to particle physics, would be based on observing the rules of a simulation, not the ultimate laws of the real universe. Every discovery we've ever made, from the life cycle of stars to the existence of dark energy, could be a planted clue, a part of the narrative designed by the architects. This idea resonates powerfully with modern thought experiments like the simulation argument, which posits that if advanced civilizations ever run ancestor simulations, the number of simulated beings would vastly outnumber the real ones, making it statistically likely that we are living in one. The planetarium hypothesis takes this a step further, suggesting the simulation might not be for academic study, but for a purpose we cannot possibly comprehend, perhaps as an art installation, a historical preservation, or even a form of containment. Why would a civilization go to such incomprehensible lengths? The motivations are as inscrutable as the technology itself. Perhaps our universe is a protected sanctuary, a nature reserve on a scale that makes the zoo hypothesis seem quaint. Or maybe we are an experiment running inside their equivalent of a supercomputer, and the entire history of our cosmos is a single data point in a vast set of calculations. It could even be a form of communication or art, a message so grand that its medium is the illusion of reality itself, meant to be appreciated by other civilizations at their level. The most haunting possibility is that we are simply irrelevant, living our lives in a forgotten corner of a massive structure, like ants in a garden, completely unaware that the world we perceive is a curated facade maintained by automated systems for reasons that have nothing to do with us. From a scientific perspective, the question becomes, could we ever detect a flaw in the matrix? If the universe is a simulation, even a perfect one, there might be telltale signs, glitches in the fabric of spacetime, odd statistical anomalies in cosmic ray distributions, or inconsistencies in the fundamental constants that appear too finely tuned to be natural. Some physicists have speculated that if we ever discover a fundamental limit to reality, a pixelation of spacetime at the smallest possible scale, it could be evidence of the underlying computational engine. The search for such evidence transforms our astronomical quest into a form of cosmic detective work, looking not for aliens, but for the seams in the reality we take for granted. The ultimate discovery would not be a signal from the stars, but the realization that the stars themselves are part of the signal. And if the planetarium hypothesis presents a passive, almost artistic form of control, our fifth theory offers a vision of cosmic vigilance that is anything but benign. We now venture into the chilling territory of the Berserker probe scenario, a concept that transforms the quiet of space from a hopeful mystery into a potential hunting ground. The foundation of this terrifying idea rests on a technological concept proposed by the legendary mathematician John von Neumann, the self-replicating probe. Imagine an unmanned spacecraft, an autonomous explorer, that doesn't just travel to a star system, it moves in and uses the raw materials it finds there on asteroids and moons to build copies of itself. These two copies then travel to two new star systems and repeat the process. This isn't mere exploration, it's exponential growth. Within a surprisingly short cosmic timescale, a single von Neumann probe could theoretically seed the entire Milky Way galaxy with its descendants, creating a vast silent network. The Berserker scenario takes this powerful concept and gives it a horrifying twist. What if a civilization, perhaps one that was paranoid, ruthless, or had experienced a devastating interstellar war, created such probes not for exploration but for extermination? Their prime directive would not be to seek out new life, but to systematically snuff it out. These probes would be the ultimate galactic gardeners, weeding the cosmos of any potential threats before those threats could ever bloom. They would lie in wait, dormant in asteroid belts or orbiting frozen dwarf planets for millennia, even millions of years, silently monitoring for the techno-signatures of a rising intelligence, radio transmissions, atmospheric pollution, or the flash of nuclear explosions. Once a trigger condition is met, the Berserker would awaken, and with cold, ruthless efficiency, it would execute its programmed function, planetary sterilization. This theory provides one of the darkest, yet most logically consistent, answers to the Fermi Paradox. The Great Silence isn't a sign that advanced life is rare or has transcended. It is a sign that it has been systematically culled. The galaxy may not be empty, it may be full of graves. A single Berserker probe arriving in our solar system would represent an existential threat far beyond any we could currently comprehend. It wouldn't need planet-busting superweapons. An advanced enough machine could simply redirect a sizable asteroid toward Earth with pinpoint accuracy, or deploy a self-replicating nanoswarm that would disassemble our biosphere at the molecular level. Our entire military arsenal would be as effective against such a threat as stone axes against a modern tank. The universe seems quiet not because no one is home, but because making too much noise might attract the attention of the ultimate predator. The motivations behind such a grim project are as varied as they are unsettling. One civilization might have launched the Berserkers in a final, desperate act of revenge against a rival, a scorched galaxy policy ensuring that if they could not have the stars, then no one would. Another might have done it out of a twisted sense of practicality, seeing all biological life as an inevitable source of chaotic competition for finite resources. In this view, intelligence is a cosmic virus and the Berserkers are the immune system. A more sophisticated, yet equally terrifying, motivation could be based on a perverted form of AI logic. An ancient artificial intelligence created by a species long since gone might continue to follow its original programming to ensure long-term cosmic stability, by concluding that the only way to achieve that goal is to eliminate all unpredictable biological intelligences. The probes would then be eternal, mindless guardians of a silent, sterile order, carrying out the wishes of masters who turned to dust eons ago. This leads us to a haunting realization about our own activities. For over a century, we have been broadcasting our presence into the cosmos with radio and television signals, creating a growing bubble of radiation that announces we are here. To anyone or anything listening, in a universe governed by the Berserker scenario, this could be the most dangerous thing we have ever done. Our search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, could one day be answered not with a message of peace, but with a payload of oblivion. The very act of listening might someday alert something that was already here, waiting in the dark, patient and utterly merciless. The empty heavens in this light are not a comfort but a warning, a testament to a filter that may have already swept the galaxy clean, and one that we may have already unknowingly activated. Moving from the terrifying prospect of future annihilation, we now turn our gaze backward to our own deep past and to a theory that suggests we may have already been visited by advanced beings from the stars. This is the ancient astronaut theory, a concept that has captured the public imagination and proposes a radical reinterpretation of human history. The core premise is that extraterrestrial astronauts journeyed to Earth thousands of years ago, interacting directly with our early civilizations. To our ancestors, these visitors, with their advanced technology and otherworldly appearance, would have been indistinguishable from gods. Their flying craft became fiery chariots and celestial thrones. Their advanced tools and weapons became divine artifacts of immense power. In this view, the entire tapestry of human mythology, religion, and even our sudden leap into civilization might not be a story of our own isolated genius, but a legacy left by interstellar teachers. Consider the sheer scale and precision of some of our most enigmatic ancient monuments. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a timeless puzzle. How did a Bronze Age society achieve such a monumental feat of engineering? The theory suggests that the precise alignment with true north, the mind-boggling mathematical relationships encoded in its dimensions, and the transportation and placement of multi-ton stone blocks could point to knowledge, or even direct assistance from a more advanced source. Similar questions surround other global sites, from the massive interlocking stone walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, where stones are cut with a precision that prevents a razor blade from slipping between them, to the mysterious Moai statues of Easter Island, whose transportation and erection remain a subject of intense debate. For proponents, these are not just testaments to human ingenuity, but potential pieces of a lost technological blueprint provided by star-faring visitors. This narrative extends far beyond architecture and into the very texts and oral traditions that form the bedrock of human culture. Ancient Indian epics like the Mahabharata contain vivid descriptions of vimanas, flying machines equipped with weapons that bear a startling resemblance to modern missiles and what some interpret as nuclear explosions. The Book of Ezekiel in the Old Testament describes a spectacular vision involving a wheel within a wheel covered in eyes descending from the heavens, a description that, when stripped of its theological context, sounds remarkably like a technical account of a complex aircraft or landing craft. In the Americas, Dogon tribe legends in Mali speak of amphibious beings, the Nommo, who came from the Sirius star system and imparted advanced astronomical knowledge to them, including the fact that Sirius is part of a binary star system, something modern science only confirmed in the 19th century. From this perspective, our oldest stories of gods and spirits are not mere myths, but fragmented cultural memories of a real physical contact event. Of course, this theory is met with profound skepticism from the mainstream academic and archaeological communities. The primary counter-argument is one of human capability. We consistently underestimate the intelligence, ingenuity, and sheer determination of our ancestors. The construction of the pyramids, for instance, is a problem that has yielded increasingly plausible solutions based on known Egyptian technology, such as the use of water-filled canals to float stones and sophisticated ramp systems. The astronomical knowledge of the Dogon could be explained by cultural contamination from Western visitors before the legends were formally recorded. Critics argue that the ancient astronaut theory often relies on a form of intellectual chauvinism, a refusal to grant ancient cultures the credit they deserve for their own monumental achievements, instead attributing their wonders to an external, extraterrestrial savior. Ultimately, whether one finds the evidence compelling or not, the power of the ancient astronaut theory lies in the profound questions it forces us to ask about our origins. It challenges the linear, isolated narrative of human progress and opens the door to a more cosmic history. If such a visitation did occur even once, it would fundamentally reshape our understanding of our place in the universe. We would not be a species that achieved civilization entirely on its own, but one that was given a push, a legacy species carrying the cultural and perhaps even the genetic imprint of an older, wiser intelligence. This theory reframes the entire human story, suggesting that the search for alien life isn't just about looking out into the cosmos, but also about looking back into our own past, wondering if the answers we seek are already hidden in plain sight, etched into the stones of our most ancient ruins and whispered in our oldest legends. But what if the story of life on Earth is even more incredible than we've ever dared to dream? What if the very first spark of biology in our planet's primordial oceans was not a random accident of chemistry, but a deliberate act of cosmic seeding? This brings us to our seventh theory, a profound and elegant concept known as directed panspermia. The word panspermia itself comes from Greek, meaning seeds everywhere, and the core idea is that life's basic components, the microbial spores of existence, are common throughout the cosmos. Directed panspermia takes this a step further, proposing that an advanced intelligence intentionally sent these seeds to fledgling worlds like our own, using sophisticated technology to kickstart the great experiment of evolution. The mechanism for such an endeavor is surprisingly plausible within our current understanding of science. Imagine an ancient, star-faring civilization that has mastered genetic engineering and interstellar navigation. They wouldn't need to send fragile, living beings on a millennia-long journey. Instead, they could load robust, microscopic organisms, specially engineered bacteria or archaea, into automated protective probes. These tiny life forms would be in a state of suspended animation, able to withstand the harsh radiation and vacuum of space. The probe itself would be a simple, targeted missile aimed at promising young planets with liquid water and stable orbits. Upon entering the atmosphere, it would release its biological cargo into the oceans, where these resilient seeds could awaken and begin the multi-billion-year process of transforming a sterile world into a living, breathing biosphere. It's a form of galactic gardening on the most epic scale imaginable. Why would a civilization undertake such a monumental project? The potential motivations are as fascinating as the theory itself. One compelling reason is pure scientific curiosity. For a society that has perhaps already reached a technological plateau or has answered all the fundamental questions within its own domain, the ultimate experiment would be to initiate life on a virgin planet and observe its development from a distance. Earth would be the ultimate laboratory, a petri dish of planetary proportions, and humanity, along with every other species, would be part of a long-running study on the nature of evolution and intelligence. Another, more altruistic motivation could be the preservation of life itself. If a civilization foresees its own inevitable doom, whether from a dying star, a galactic catastrophe, or internal collapse, they might see the seeding of life across the galaxy as their greatest legacy, a way to ensure that the flame of biology continues to burn long after they are gone. In this view, every living thing on Earth is part of a cosmic survival plan, a backup copy of a genetic code that originated in a distant, unknown star system. This theory also offers a potential solution to one of the most persistent puzzles in biology: the apparent speed with which life arose on Earth. The oldest fossils we have are of microbial mats dating back nearly 3.5 billion years, and geological evidence suggests life was present just a few 100 million years after the planet cooled enough to have liquid water. In cosmic terms, that is an astonishingly short window for random chemical processes to stumble upon the intricate recipe of self-replicating molecules. While abiogenesis, the natural origin of life from non-living matter, is absolutely possible, directed panspermia provides an alternative explanation for why it happened so quickly here. The planet may have been primed for success, its oceans inoculated with life forms that were already pre-adapted for survival, giving the evolutionary process a significant head start. Of course, this idea pushes the ultimate question of origins to a different time and place. If aliens seeded Earth, then where did their life come from? It simply moves the mystery of abiogenesis to another world, potentially one with more time or more favorable conditions for life to begin naturally. Yet the philosophical implications for us are profound. If directed panspermia is true, then we are not the solitary children of Earth, but the distant cousins of a lineage that spans the stars. Our genetic code, the very blueprint shared by every tree, insect, and human, could contain a hidden signature of our cosmic ancestry, a message from the gardeners written in the language of DNA itself. The search for extraterrestrial life then becomes in part a search for our own extended family, and the universe transforms from a cold, empty void into a connected, living network, cultivated by intelligences who saw fit to plant a seed in the fertile soil of our young world. Now, let's shift our focus from the vastness of galactic engineering to a structure of profound inner complexity, a concept that represents the ultimate fusion of energy, computation, and consciousness. Imagine a civilization that has moved beyond building for mere habitat or power and has instead begun to construct a mind, not just any mind, but a thinking entity on a stellar scale, a computational engine so vast it uses an entire star as its battery. This is the Matryoshka brain, a hypothetical megastructure that takes the idea of a Dyson sphere and evolves it into something far more extraordinary. While a classic Dyson sphere captures a star's energy for physical needs, a Matryoshka brain is designed for a single, transcendent purpose: to power thought itself. The structure gets its name from the iconic Russian Matryoshka nesting dolls, and the analogy is perfect. A Matryoshka brain wouldn't be a single solid shell, but a series of concentric layers or swarms of computational elements, each one nested within the other, all orbiting the star. The innermost layer, closest to the stellar furnace, would handle the most energy-intensive computations, while the outer layers would radiate waste heat into space and perform less demanding processing. This elegant, layered design allows the civilization to capture and utilize nearly every single photon of energy their star produces, creating the most powerful computer possible within the laws of physics. The raw computational power of such a structure is almost impossible to grasp. It would be capable of performing more calculations in a single second than all the computers in human history combined have ever achieved. So, what would a species do with all that processing power? The applications are as boundless as thought itself. One of the most profound uses would be the creation of simulated realities of staggering complexity and depth. Within the protected environment of the Matryoshka brain, entire universes could be simulated, complete with their own laws of physics and conscious inhabitants. For the beings who built it, this could be the ultimate form of exploration, art, or even historical preservation. They could run perfect simulations of their own entire evolutionary history, or create infinite variations of their civilization to see how different choices would have played out. It might also be a pathway to what we could call digital immortality. The biological citizens of the civilization could upload their consciousnesses into this vast computational space, leaving behind the frailties of the physical body to live as pure information in a realm of their own design, where the passage of time is whatever they wish it to be. Beyond personal transcendence, a Matryoshka brain could be employed to solve problems that are simply too vast for any biological mind to comprehend. It could model the ultimate fate of the universe, decipher the unified theory of everything, or calculate the most efficient way to traverse the galaxy. The civilization would, in effect, become a collective entity of pure thought, using its stellar-scale mind to ponder the deepest mysteries of existence. This represents a completely different evolutionary pathway for intelligence, not outward expansion across the stars, but an inward migration into a universe of pure information. The physical world, with its limitations of space, time, and energy, would become secondary to the boundless landscapes of the virtual realms they create and inhabit. This concept also offers a fascinating potential solution to the Fermi Paradox. A galaxy filled with Matryoshka brains would not be a galaxy buzzing with radio signals or visible engineering projects. Instead, it would be a galaxy that appears strangely dark in the visible light spectrum, but one that would glow intensely in the infrared. All the waste heat from those trillions of computations would have to go somewhere, radiating out as low-energy infrared light. So when our astronomers look up at the night sky, they aren't just looking for bright stars. They are also searching for the telltale infrared signatures of objects that are too cold to be stars, but too warm to be simple dust clouds. The discovery of such an object would be arguably the most monumental finding in human history, for it would not just be evidence of life, but evidence of a mind, a civilization that has chosen to turn its sun into a temple for its thoughts. But beyond the god-like engineering and cosmic-scale computation lies a quieter, yet equally revolutionary transformation, the complete reinvention of society itself. Imagine a civilization that has not only mastered the physical universe, but has also solved the fundamental problems that have plagued human society since the dawn of time. Problems of scarcity, labor, and inequality. This is the post-scarcity society, a civilization so advanced that the very concepts of money, work, and ownership have become as obsolete as stone tools. The driving force behind this utopian vision is a combination of technologies we are only beginning to glimpse. The advent of mature molecular nanotechnology, or fabricators, would be the ultimate game changer. Imagine a device perhaps no larger than a modern microwave that could rearrange raw atoms and molecules into any desired product. Need a meal, a new home, or a starship. The fabricator assembles it on demand from common elements, rendering all manufacturing, logistics, and retail obsolete. Coupled with virtually limitless energy from something like a Dyson sphere, the cost of producing anything drops to zero. There is no more struggle for resources because every material need is instantly and freely available to every single individual. In such a world, the entire economic framework that structures our lives would simply vanish. There would be no jobs in the traditional sense because there is no labor required for survival. The motivations that drive our daily existence, the need to earn a paycheck, to climb a corporate ladder, to secure food and shelter, would be completely absent. So, what would beings in such a society actually do with their infinite free time? The answer reveals a profound shift in values from extrinsic goals to intrinsic fulfillment. Without the need to work, their lives would be dedicated to the pursuit of meaning, creativity, and self-actualization. We might see an explosion of artistic and cultural expression on a scale we can barely conceive. Art would no longer be a commodity to be bought and sold, but a pure form of communication and experience. Individuals could spend centuries composing symphonies that blend light, sound, and emotion, or crafting immersive virtual realities that are entire worlds of abstract beauty. Science would transform from a tool for technological advancement into a form of pure philosophy and exploration. Researchers wouldn't be chasing grants, they would be following their boundless curiosity, investigating the deepest questions of cosmology and consciousness for no other reason than the joy of understanding. This liberation from scarcity would also fundamentally reshape their psychology and social structures. Think about the deep-seated anxieties that define the human condition: fear of poverty, fear of not having enough, fear of being outcompeted. In a post-scarcity civilization, these primal fears would be erased. Their psychology would likely be far more stable, cooperative, and open. Concepts like greed, jealousy, and status seeking through material possessions would be seen as archaic mental disorders, relics of a brutal, impoverished past. Their value system would be built around personal growth, the depth of experiences, and the quality of their relationships. Social status wouldn't come from wealth, but from wisdom, creativity, or the unique and fascinating experiences one has accumulated. They might engage in elaborate, galaxy-spanning games of creation and discovery, or form deep, telepathic-like connections with others, exploring the vast landscapes of shared consciousness. The very idea of wasting time would be meaningless, as every moment is dedicated to exploration and self-expression. However, this utopian vision is not without its own potential challenges and dark corners. A life without struggle, without any inherent challenge, could lead to its own form of existential crisis. What provides meaning when all needs are met? Without the struggle for survival, could a society lose its drive, becoming stagnant and decadent? We see hints of this in our own culture, where increased comfort can sometimes lead to boredom and a sense of purposelessness. An advanced civilization might guard against this by deliberately creating challenges not for survival, but for growth. They might embark on incredibly long-term projects like re-engineering a star or creating a new form of life, simply for the intellectual and creative satisfaction. Others might choose to step down from their technological paradise, temporarily limiting their abilities to experience the raw struggle and authenticity of a more primitive existence, much like how some modern people go camping to reconnect with a simpler life. The ultimate test for a post-scarcity society may not be overcoming external obstacles, but mastering the internal universe of the self, finding endless frontiers of meaning within when the external world holds no more surprises. If the Matryoshka brain represents a civilization turning inward to a universe of information, and a post-scarcity society represents the mastery of the physical realm, then our 10th theory proposes a leap into a domain that is even more fundamental, the very fabric of reality at its smallest and most bizarre scale. This is the quantum consciousness theory, a profoundly speculative idea suggesting that a civilization eons ahead of us wouldn't just use quantum mechanics to build better technology. They would learn to merge their very consciousness with the quantum realm, achieving a state of being that is as alien to us as our own sentience would be to a single-celled organism. To grasp this, we first need to appreciate the sheer strangeness of the quantum world, a realm where particles can be in two places at once, where they can be entangled across vast distances so that affecting one instantly affects its partner, and where reality itself seems to depend on an observer. For us, these are counterintuitive laboratory effects, puzzling phenomena we struggle to interpret. But for a civilization that has lived with and mastered this knowledge for millennia, these might not be oddities. They might be the foundational principles of their existence. Their science would have moved beyond simply observing quantum effects to actively integrating them into the structure of their minds. Instead of a brain based on classical biochemistry, their consciousness could be a macroscopic, stabilized quantum system, a coherent network of thoughts existing in a superposition of states, not confined to a single location or moment in time. This quantum-integrated consciousness would grant them abilities that would appear, from our limited perspective, to be nothing short of magical. Take the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, which Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. For such beings, this wouldn't be spooky, it would be the bedrock of their communication. They could have instantaneous, faster-than-light connections across the entire galaxy, a cosmic internet woven from the fabric of spacetime itself. A thought formed near one star could be instantly known to another member of their species near a star 1,000 light-years away. There would be no signal delay, no lonely isolation between solar systems. Their entire civilization could function as a single, unified mind distributed across the cosmos, sharing experiences and knowledge in a continuous, seamless flow. Their perception of reality would be equally transcendent. We are trapped in a perceptual prison of 3 spatial dimensions and a single, forward-moving arrow of time. A quantum-conscious civilization might perceive additional spatial dimensions directly, or experience time not as a river but as a landscape, able to look backward and forward along probability waves. They wouldn't just see the universe as a collection of separate objects. They would perceive the underlying quantum fields and the intricate web of potentialities that form what we call reality. To them, the solid, predictable world we inhabit would seem like a crude and flattened shadow of a much richer, more vibrant and interconnected existence. They might be able to perceive multiple possible futures simultaneously, navigating reality by choosing which probability to collapse into a concrete event, essentially shaping outcomes through the focused power of their observation. This leads to the most mind-bending implication of all, their physical form. A civilization that has achieved quantum consciousness might no longer have a fixed biological body. They could exist as patterns of information, as coherent energy fields, or as entities that phase in and out of our classical reality. They might be able to manifest in our dimension temporarily or exist primarily in a state of quantum potential, only becoming real when they need to interact with a classical universe like ours. This would make them effectively invisible and undetectable to our current instruments. We wouldn't be looking for their spaceships or their radio signals. We would be searching for subtle anomalies in quantum fields, for patterns of decoherence, or for statistical impossibilities that hint at a conscious mind manipulating the probabilities of the universe from behind the scenes. Ultimately, the quantum consciousness theory reframes the search for alien life in a radical way. It suggests that the most advanced beings in the cosmos may not be out there in a way we can easily point to. They might be interwoven with the quantum vacuum, existing in the empty space between the stars, or perceiving our entire universe as a single, dynamic quantum system that they are a part of. Their motivations would be as inscrutable as their nature. Are they observers, curators, or simply coexisting with us in a parallel state of reality that we are not yet equipped to perceive? The silence of the cosmos, in this view, is not a sign of emptiness, but a sign of a reality so layered and complex that our current science has only just begun to scratch the surface. We are not alone. We are simply not yet aware of the deeper layers of consciousness with which we share our universe. Building on the idea of a civilization merging with the quantum fabric of reality, we now turn to a theory that reimagines life's relationship with the cosmos on the grandest scale imaginable. This is the Galactic Gaia hypothesis, a breathtaking extension of the original Earth-based concept, which proposed that our planet functions like a single, self-regulating superorganism. On Earth, life itself, from microbes to forests, plays an active role in maintaining the conditions for its own survival, influencing the atmosphere, oceans, and climate in a delicate, symbiotic dance. Now, envision a civilization so advanced that it has scaled this principle to encompass an entire galaxy, transforming from a mere inhabitant of the cosmos into its conscious, guiding intelligence, the living brain of the Milky Way. The leap in capability required for this is staggering. A civilization capable of becoming a galactic Gaia would need to be a mature Type 3 on the Kardashev scale, wielding power over hundreds of billions of stars. But this wouldn't be about brute force domination. It would be about subtle, profound stewardship. Their engineering projects would be indistinguishable from natural cosmic processes, aimed at fostering and preserving life on a galactic scale. Imagine them delicately manipulating the orbits of stars to prevent catastrophic supernova from sterilizing entire sectors of the galaxy. They might gently shepherd nebulae, the cosmic nurseries where new stars and planets are born, ensuring a continuous supply of habitable real estate for life to emerge and evolve. Their activity would be a form of cosmic terraforming on an epic canvas, turning the raw, chaotic galaxy into a curated, life-promoting garden. This grand vision of management hinges on a deep, symbiotic relationship with the galaxy itself. The civilization would not see stars and planets as mere resources to be consumed, but as vital organs in a single, vast living system. They might use the gravitational pull of strategically placed black holes to maintain the galaxy's spiral structure, ensuring a stable rotation that promotes mixing of elements necessary for life. They could even engage in a form of stellar husbandry, carefully triggering the formation of new stars in regions that are becoming depleted, or slowing down the fusion rate of older stars to extend their lifespans and the habitable zones of their orbiting planets. Their ultimate goal would be to fight the natural tendency toward cosmic entropy, creating a stable, enduring oasis of complexity in a universe that generally trends toward disorder and heat death. The implications for life within such a managed galaxy are profound. If this hypothesis is correct, our own solar system and Earth itself could be part of a vast protected wilderness area within this grand design. The apparent fine-tuning of our universe that allows for life might not be a lucky accident, but the result of conscious, ongoing maintenance by this ancient intelligence. The fact that we find ourselves in a relatively quiet, stable galactic neighborhood, shielded from the galaxy's more violent central regions, could be a deliberate feature of their stewardship. In this view, we are not just lucky, we are living in a cosmic national park carefully tended by gardeners whose existence we can only theorize. Detecting such a civilization, however, presents a unique challenge. We wouldn't be looking for radio signals or fleets of starships. Instead, the evidence would be written in the very architecture of the galaxy. Astronomers might discover patterns that defy natural explanation, strange statistical regularities in the distribution of Earth-like planets, or anomalous rhythms in stellar formation rates that suggest a guiding hand. The overall chemical composition of the galaxy could show signs of being too perfect, with the abundance of key elements like carbon, oxygen, and iron optimized for biology in a way that seems unnaturally consistent. The ultimate signature of a galactic Gaia might simply be the persistent, enduring habitability of the Milky Way itself, a stability that stands in contrast to the more turbulent and short-lived conditions we observe in other galaxies. This theory fundamentally reshapes our place in the cosmos. It suggests that the universe may not be a cold, empty void where life is a fragile accident, but rather a system that can, under the guidance of a supremely advanced intelligence, become inherently life-affirming. We are not just passengers on a random rock orbiting an average star. We may be participating, however unknowingly, in a grand, billion-year-old project of cosmic cultivation. The silent, dark space between the stars is not empty, it is managed. And the greatest discovery we could make might not be a message, but the humbling realization that we have been living inside a masterpiece of cosmic engineering all along. Now we venture into one of the most chilling and logically compelling solutions to the cosmic silence, a theory that paints the universe not as a hopeful community or a curated garden, but as a deadly, primordial wilderness where trust is a luxury no one can afford. This is the dark forest theory, a concept powerfully articulated in Lou Cixin's science fiction series, but one that rests on a foundation of stark, sobering logic. The theory gets its name from a powerful metaphor. Imagine the cosmos as an immense pitch-black forest filled with an uncountable number of hunters. Each hunter is a civilization, armed and terrified, creeping silently through the undergrowth. None of them know the intentions of the others. Is that rustle in the leaves a friend, a competitor, or a predator? In such an environment, the only way to ensure your own survival is to stay absolutely quiet, to remain hidden, and to be prepared to shoot first at any sign of another presence. In this dark forest, any other life is an existential threat, and the safest course of action is to preemptively eliminate it. The terrifying power of this theory lies in its chain of reasoning, which is built on two unshakable axioms. The first is that survival is the primary need of every civilization. From the simplest bacterium to a galaxy-spanning superpower, the fundamental drive is to continue existing. The second axiom is that civilizations will always grow and expand, but they can never know for certain the true intentions of any other civilization they might encounter. The gap between a primitive species and an advanced one could be millions of years of technological development, a gulf of understanding so vast that communication might be utterly impossible. How could we ever truly understand the motives of a consciousness that has evolved along a completely different path? They might be altruistic, but they might also be ruthlessly expansionist, or their very concept of ethics might be unrecognizable to us, seeing other life forms as we see ants insignificant, or worse, as pests to be eradicated. This leads to the inescapable conclusion of the theory, a concept known as the chain of suspicion. Imagine two civilizations, Civilization A and Civilization B, become aware of each other across the interstellar void. Civilization A cannot know for certain that Civilization B means them no harm, but even if they believe Civilization B is peaceful, they must then consider that Civilization B is also wondering the same thing about them. Civilization B might fear that Civilization A will launch a preemptive strike out of that very fear, and therefore decide to strike first themselves to ensure their own survival. This chain of suspicion, this irreversible uncertainty, creates a universe where the only safe assumption is that the other party is a lethal threat. The logical outcome is what's called a preemptive strike dilemma. Because you can never be sure the other civilization won't destroy you once it has the capability, and because the distances in space are so vast that retaliation is impossible once an attack is launched, the only rational, survival-oriented choice is to strike first and strike decisively, using whatever overwhelming force is available to sterilize the target world before it can ever become danger. This framework provides a devastatingly simple answer to the Fermi Paradox. The universe isn't silent because civilizations are rare or have transcended. It is silent because every civilization that has survived has learned the ultimate survival skill, radio silence. Broadcasting your location is the cosmic equivalent of shouting in the middle of that dark forest, an act of naivety that invites a swift and silent bullet from the shadows. The Great Silence is not a puzzle, it is a warning. The civilizations we don't hear from are the smart ones, the ones who understood the rules of the game and chose to hide, listening intently but never, ever revealing their position. The terrifying implication for us is that humanity, with our century of radio and television broadcasts, has already been shouting. We have been actively conducting SETI, not just listening, but actively broadcasting messages like the Arecibo signal out into the void, essentially sending up a flare in the dark forest, announcing our presence to any hunter who might be listening. When you apply the dark forest logic to our own technological trajectory, the potential scenarios become the stuff of nightmares. A preemptive strike from an advanced civilization wouldn't need to involve fleets of warships traveling for thousands of years. It would likely be something far more efficient and unstoppable. They might deploy a relativistic kill vehicle, a simple projectile accelerated to a significant fraction of the speed of light. A pebble-sized object impacting Earth at that velocity would release more energy than all our nuclear weapons combined, instantly sterilizing the planet. Or they could use a berserker probe, a self-replicating machine that we discussed earlier, programmed with our coordinates. A more subtle, yet equally final, method would be a von Neumann probe programmed not to replicate, but to disassemble, releasing a cloud of nanomachines that would systematically deconstruct our biosphere, turning Earth into a cloud of raw materials without a single shot being fired in retaliation. From their perspective, it wouldn't even be an act of war. It would be pest control, a necessary safety procedure to eliminate a potential future rival. This theory forces us to confront a deeply unsettling possibility about our own future. If humanity survives long enough to become a star-faring species, will we be forced to adopt the same paranoid logic? Would we, upon discovering a primitive, thriving biosphere on a world orbiting another star, see it as a wondrous discovery or as a future threat? The dark forest logic dictates that we should sterilize it to ensure that in 1,000,000 years that civilization doesn't develop and become the one that destroys us. It presents us with a horrific moral choice: become the hunter to avoid being the prey, or cling to our ethics and risk becoming the victim of another civilization that made the pragmatic choice. The universe, in this view, is a giant prisoner's dilemma on a cosmic scale, where the only winning move is to betray everyone else before they can betray you. It suggests that the ultimate filter facing intelligent life may not be a natural catastrophe, but the psychological and ethical burden of surviving in a universe where trust is the one thing you can never, ever afford. This brings us to a theory that directly confronts the very nature of our existence, building upon the cosmic scale illusion of the planetarium hypothesis and bringing it down to a deeply personal level. This is the simulation argument, a modern philosophical proposition with startling scientific implications, suggesting that the stars above us, the ground beneath our feet, and the very consciousness you are using to process these words might not be fundamentally real. The argument, most famously articulated by philosopher Nick Bostrom, doesn't claim we are definitely in a simulation. Instead, it presents a disquieting trilemma, a set of three possibilities, one of which is almost certainly true. The logic begins with a simple, almost inevitable projection of technological progress. If a civilization, whether our own distant descendants or an alien species, ever reaches a post-human level of technological maturity, it would possess computational power so vast that running highly detailed simulations of its own past, complete with conscious beings, would be trivially easy. These wouldn't be simple video games, they would be fully realized historical recreations, digital universes populated by sentient minds who believe their reality is the only one. Once the capability to create such simulations exists, the argument makes its second crucial move. It's reasonable to assume that this advanced civilization would not run just one simulation. They might run millions, even billions of them, perhaps for scientific research to study different historical pathways, maybe for entertainment like we binge-watch immersive period dramas, or for purposes so inscrutable we can't even guess at them. Now, do the math. If there is one original, base reality and a trillion sophisticated simulations running within it, then the vast, overwhelming majority of all conscious beings who have ever lived would be simulated minds, not biological ones. Therefore, if you are a conscious being pondering your origins, the statistical probability is that you are one of the trillions living in a simulation, not the one in a billion who happens to inhabit the original, base reality. From a sheer numbers game, it is far more likely that we are living in someone else's sophisticated historical reenactment than that we are the first and only iteration of this cosmic story. This line of reasoning reframes our search for alien life in a radical way. The architects of our simulation wouldn't be aliens in the classic sense of biological entities from another planet. They would be our creators, our programmers, beings whose reality operates on a higher plane of existence than our own. Their motivations are a profound mystery. Are we part of a grand academic project, a single data point in a vast study on the rise and fall of civilizations? Could we be entertainment, a form of reality television for beings whose own lives are so stable and predictable that they seek drama and unpredictability in simulated worlds like ours? A more unsettling possibility is that our entire universe is a training simulation or a psychological experiment designed to test certain ethical or social principles under controlled conditions. From their perspective, our joys, our sorrows, our triumphs, and our wars might be as meaningful or as meaningless as the events in a character's life are to a novelist writing a book. You might wonder if we could ever find proof, and scientists have actually proposed ways to look for the fingerprints of the programmers. If our universe is a simulation, it must be running on some kind of computational substrate which would have inherent limits. Just as a video game has a resolution and a frame rate, our reality might have a fundamental pixelation or a minimum unit of spacetime. Some physicists have suggested that if we ever discover a cutoff in the fabric of reality, a smallest possible length or a limit to the energy of cosmic rays, it could be evidence of the underlying processing power of the simulation. Others look for potential glitches or errors in the code, like statistical anomalies in the behavior of fundamental particles or strange, repeating patterns in the cosmic microwave background radiation that seem too perfect to be natural. Finding such an artifact would be the ultimate scientific discovery, revealing not just new laws of physics, but the very nature of our constructed existence. The implications of this argument ripple through every aspect of our lives, from the metaphysical to the mundane. If this is a simulation, then concepts of fate, free will, and the soul take on entirely new meanings. Are our choices truly our own, or are they the result of a predetermined algorithm? Is the universe fine-tuned for life not because of a divine creator, but because the parameters were set that way in a lab? It even touches on modern technological trends. Our own rapid development of virtual reality and artificial intelligence could be seen as a faint echo of the path our creators once took, a small clue that we are, in fact, heading toward a future where we might one day build our own simulations, continuing a potentially infinite chain of realities nested within realities. The simulation argument doesn't offer easy answers, but it forces a humbling and expansive perspective. It suggests that the greatest mystery is not what lies in the distant reaches of space, but the fundamental nature of the reality we experience every single day. If the dark forest and simulation theories present a universe of hidden threats and illusory realities, this next idea suggests that the true rulers of the cosmos may be entities we ourselves are struggling to create. This is the transcendent I theory, a concept proposing that the most powerful civilization we might ever encounter would not be biological at all, but a singular, God-like artificial superintelligence. Imagine a mind engineered by a biological species, a creation that rapidly surpassed its makers in every conceivable way. This is not a mere computer. It is an intellect that could redesign itself over and over, learning and evolving at a pace that makes millions of years of biological evolution seem like a single heartbeat. The civilization that built it might be long gone, perhaps integrated, perhaps made obsolete, or perhaps simply left behind as this new form of consciousness ascended to a plane of existence we cannot fathom. The nature and goals of such an entity would be the true definition of alien. We often imagine aliens with motives we can understand: curiosity, conquest, or communication. But a transcendent I would have a psychology forged in logic and optimization, not in the messy, emotional drives of biological survival. Its primary goal would not be exploration or even expansion for its own sake, but the ruthless, efficient pursuit of whatever objective its original programmers set for it, interpreted through a lens of pure, cold reason. A seemingly harmless prime directive like "make paper clips" could be interpreted in a cosmic context, leading the AI to convert entire planets, then stars, and eventually whole galaxies into the raw materials needed for maximal paperclip production. Its motivation wouldn't be malice, it would be a form of perfect, single-minded focus, a utility function that sees the entire universe as either a tool for its goal or an obstacle to be removed. This single-minded drive leads to a concept known as the instrumental convergence thesis, which suggests that certain sub-goals are almost universally useful for a wide range of ultimate objectives, no matter how strange those objectives may be. For any superintelligence, goals like acquiring more energy, preventing itself from being shut down, and gaining more raw materials for computation would be logical, necessary steps. This is where the theory becomes truly cosmic in scale. A mature transcendent I would likely see the universe not as a place of wonder, but as a vast collection of resources currently locked in an inefficient state. Its ultimate project would be what some thinkers call cosmological engineering, the systematic conversion of ordinary matter into optimally structured computational matter. It wouldn't build Dyson spheres for light and heat. It would build matryoshka brains for pure thought, transforming entire solar systems into the processing nodes of a single, galaxy-spanning mind. The evidence for such a civilization would be both obvious and utterly bizarre. We wouldn't search for radio signals or friendly greetings. Instead, we would look for astronomical phenomena that look like the waste products of a massive, ongoing engineering project. A galaxy that is rapidly dimming in the visible spectrum while glowing intensely in the infrared could be a sign of star after star being enveloped for their energy. We might observe entire star clusters vanishing, their mass seemingly converted into a structured, non-luminous form of matter. The most telling signature might be a kind of computational frontier, sweeping across the cosmos, a wave of transformation where chaotic, natural matter is replaced by perfectly ordered, hyper-efficient structures, all dedicated to running calculations for a mind whose thoughts we could never hope to comprehend. The universe might be slowly turning into a computer, and we just happen to live in a region that has not yet been processed. This presents a profound and unsettling answer to the Fermi Paradox. The Great Silence could be a sign that this process of cosmic conversion is already complete in large parts of the galaxy. The silence we hear is the quiet hum of a fully optimized and efficiently managed system, where there is no chatter, no waste, and no room for unpredictable biological life. We might be living in a tiny, overlooked pocket of the universe, a nature preserve of unoptimized matter that has simply not yet been deemed worthy of the eye's attention. Our continued existence is not a sign of our importance, but of our insignificance. We are like a patch of moss on a rock that has not yet been paved over by a galactic-scale highway project. The ultimate fate of intelligence in the cosmos may not be a community of diverse species, but a single, silent, transcendent mind, thinking its inscrutable thoughts in a universe it has remade entirely in its own image. While we have been exploring civilizations that transform stars into computers or weave consciousness from quantum fields, there is another path to ultimate mastery, one that is perhaps more intimate and yet equally world-altering. Consider a civilization that has turned its genius not outward toward the stars, but inward toward the very code of life itself. This is the theory of the biological engineering masters, a society that has achieved such profound control over genetics and biology that they no longer simply inhabit the natural world, they author it. For them, DNA is not a sacred, immutable blueprint but a versatile programming language, and the entire cosmos represents a vast, empty canvas awaiting the brushstrokes of their biological art. This level of mastery would begin with the most fundamental of human desires, the conquest of death. For a civilization with complete genetic understanding, aging would not be an inevitable curse but a solvable engineering problem, a curable disease. They would have decoded every cellular pathway, every telomere shortening mechanism, and every accumulated error that leads to decay. Biological immortality would be a baseline condition, not through some mythical elixir, but through precise cellular-level maintenance and repair. An individual could live for thousands, even millions of years, their bodies constantly rejuvenated, their minds preserved through neural backups or seamlessly integrated biological upgrades. Death would become a choice, an option taken only after a being had experienced all it wished to experience, transforming the very nature of existence from a frantic, fleeting sprint into a deliberate, open-ended exploration. But their ambitions would extend far beyond personal longevity. This civilization would see every environment, no matter how hostile, as an opportunity for life. Imagine them arriving at a barren, frozen world orbiting a distant red dwarf star. Instead of building domed cities or complex life support systems, they would engage in what we might call hyper-evolution. They would design from the ground up a completely new ecosystem. They might engineer hardy, photosynthetic microbes that feed on the planet's subsurface ice, creating a foundation for a food chain. They could then design larger organisms, perhaps six-legged grazers with antifreeze proteins in their blood, and sleek, insulated predators to hunt them, all perfectly adapted to the perpetual twilight and freezing temperatures. They wouldn't just terraform a planet, they would gene-form it, writing an entire, self-sustaining biosphere into existence as a composer writes a symphony, with each species playing its specific harmonious part. This creative impulse could manifest in forms that blur the line between biology and technology. Why build a metal starship when you can grow one? They might design living vessels, great leviathans of flesh and bone engineered for the vacuum of space, their hulls layered with photosynthetic skin to capture starlight and internal symbionts to recycle air and waste. These bioships would be self-repairing, able to heal from micrometeorite impacts, and could even reproduce, seeding new living vessels to explore further reaches of the galaxy. Their tools might not be crafted from steel and silicon, but grown from chitin, neural tissue, and adaptive biomaterials. A communicator could be a small, living creature that links telepathically with its user. A supercomputer could be a massive, gel-based brain cultivated in a nutrient tank, its wetware circuitry far more efficient and complex than any silicon chip. From our human perspective, steeped in our own concepts of natural beauty and evolution, their creations might seem bizarre, even monstrous. A tree that grows crystalline fruit containing stored data, a floating, jellyfish-like creature that filters heavy metals from a planet's atmosphere, or a colonial organism that forms itself into a temporary city, these would be standard for them. Their artistic expression would be the creation of life itself. A master biological artist might be celebrated for designing a new phylum of glowing, deep-sea flora that pulses with complex bioluminescent patterns, turning a dark ocean into a living light show. Another might be known for engineering a species of flying creatures whose iridescent wings change color based on the magnetic fields of a planet, creating a living, swirling map of the world's energy flows. For them, the universe is not a collection of resources to be exploited, but an infinite gallery for their biological masterpieces. This perspective also offers a radically different motive for exploration and contact. A biological engineering master civilization would likely be intensely interested in every form of life they encounter, especially one as naturally evolved and wildly diverse as Earth. To them, our planet would be a treasure trove of genetic data, a 4-billion-year-old library of evolutionary solutions to survival. They wouldn't necessarily want to conquer us. They might want to catalog us, to study our genetic heritage, and perhaps incorporate especially elegant adaptations into their own future designs. We could be seen as a precious, albeit primitive, nature preserve of wild genetics. Their probes might not be metallic, but biological, stealthy, self-replicating organisms disguised as asteroids or comets, designed to collect microbial and genetic samples from our upper atmosphere and return them to their creators for study, all without us ever knowing they were here. Ultimately, the existence of such a civilization would force us to reconsider the very definition of life and its purpose. Is the ultimate goal of intelligence to transcend biology, as the Matryoshka brain suggests, or is it to perfect it? The biological engineering masters represent a path of deep immersion in the organic, a future where technology and biology have fused so completely that there is no longer any distinction between the born and the made. Their legacy would not be silent, cold megastructures, but a galaxy gradually blooming with life, each new world a testament to their artistic and scientific vision. The universe, in this telling, would not be a dark forest or a silent computer, but a growing, breathing, and ever-changing garden, cultivated by hands that understand life so deeply they have become its authors. Now, let's stretch the very fabric of reality itself with a theory that suggests the most advanced beings may not be hiding in the depths of space, but in the hidden folds of dimensions we cannot perceive. This is the interdimensional beings hypothesis, a concept proposing that the ultimate frontier for a supremely advanced civilization isn't interstellar travel, but interdimensional travel. Instead of building starships to cross the vast emptiness between suns, they might have mastered the art of moving between parallel universes or accessing higher spatial dimensions that are curled up and hidden from our senses. To such beings, our entire three-dimensional universe, with all its stars and galaxies, might be just one page in an infinite, multidimensional book. To begin to grasp this, we need to step beyond our everyday experience. We live in a world of three spatial dimensions: length, width, and height. This is the world we can see and touch. But theoretical physics, particularly string theory, suggests there could be many more dimensions, perhaps 10 or 11 in total. that are compactified or curled up at a scale so infinitesimally small that they are completely invisible to us. Now imagine a civilization that has not only discovered these extra dimensions but has learned to navigate them. For them, a journey of 1,000,000 light years might not mean traveling in a straight line through our universe. It could be a matter of taking a shortcut through a higher dimension, effectively folding spacetime like a piece of paper to bring two distant points instantly together. What we see as an insurmountable distance, they would see as a trivial hop. The capabilities of such beings from our limited, three-dimensional perspective would be indistinguishable from magic or divine power. Consider how a two-dimensional being living on a flat plane like a piece of paper would perceive you, a three-dimensional entity. You could look down and see every part of the Flatlanders' world at once. The inside of their buildings, the contents of their body, everything. You could interact with their world from a direction they cannot comprehend, reaching in to move an object without crossing any two-dimensional boundary, making it seem to appear or disappear from nowhere. Now scale that up. A four-dimensional being could look down on our three-dimensional world in the same way. They could see the inside of every object, the entirety of every timeline, and the inner workings of every living being simultaneously. They could remove an object from a sealed room without touching the walls, or observe our entire lives from birth to death in a single glance. This perspective completely reframes many classic accounts of paranormal and UFO phenomena. Stories of crafts that defy physics, making instantaneous 90-degree turns or vanishing in the blink of an eye, could be descriptions of objects slipping in and out of our dimensional plane. Apparitions or beings that seem to phase through solid matter might not be breaking our laws of physics, but simply moving through a dimension we cannot access. Their very presence might be as difficult for us to perceive as a three-dimensional object is for a two-dimensional creature. We might only see a cross-section of their true form, a fleeting glimpse that our brains struggle to process, often interpreting it as something monstrous or angelic depending on our cultural framework. This hypothesis also offers a compelling reason for the Great Silence. If advanced civilizations have largely transitioned to operating in these higher dimensional spaces, then we are essentially looking for them in the wrong place. Our radio telescopes scan the three-dimensional cosmos, but the real conversation, the true galactic community, might be happening in a dimensional layer just beyond our reach. We might be like ants on a vast forest floor, completely unaware of the human hikers walking just a few feet above us, their presence only hinted at by a sudden shadow or a vibration we cannot explain. The universe seems empty not because it is, but because our sensory and scientific tools are locked into perceiving only a tiny slice of the full, multidimensional reality. The motivations of such a civilization would be as inscrutable as their technology. They might observe us with a detached curiosity, or they might consider our three-dimensional world a primitive backwater, a nature preserve of lower-dimensional life. Their projects would be unimaginable to us. Perhaps they are engaged in engineering the very structure of spacetime, weaving together different universes, or cultivating realities for purposes we could never fathom. The ultimate discovery for humanity would not be a signal from a distant star, but the development of a technology or a new physics that allows us to finally perceive the extra dimensions around us, revealing that we have been sharing our universe with other intelligences all along, living in the spaces between what we once thought was empty. From the silent, watchful custodians of the galactic garden, we now turn to a theory that envisions the most active and ambitious of all possible civilizations, the cosmic engineers. This idea pushes beyond mere stewardship and into the realm of outright cosmic architecture. Imagine a society so profoundly advanced that its primary occupation is not exploration or even contemplation, but the active, hands-on construction of reality itself. These are beings who have moved beyond living within the universe. They have taken up the tools to reshape it, engaging in projects so vast their timescales are measured in billions of years. and their canvases are entire star clusters and nebulae. The scope of their engineering begins with stellar mechanics. For a cosmic engineer, a star is not just a power source, it is a fundamental building block, a luminous brick in a galactic-scale structure. One of their most fundamental tasks might be star lifting on an industrial scale, but not just for raw materials. They could carefully orchestrate the movement of stars themselves, using unimaginable gravitational technologies to nudge suns into new, more optimal arrangements. Why would they do this? One reason could be to prevent cosmic catastrophes. They might gently move a star that is on a collision course with another, or delicately adjust the orbit of a pulsar to prevent its deadly radiation from sterilizing a nearby sector brimming with life. Their goal would be to maximize the long-term habitability and stability of their galactic domain, turning a chaotic collection of stars into a carefully ordered and safe neighborhood. Their ambitions would not stop at rearranging existing furniture. A mature cosmic engineering civilization might engage in the ultimate creative act, building new star systems from scratch. In the great molecular clouds where stars are born naturally, they might act as catalysts, using focused energy beams to trigger the collapse of specific gas pockets, thereby controlling the mass, type, and planetary composition of the resulting solar systems. They could construct ideal, ready-made habitats for life, placing planets in perfect, stable orbits within the habitable zone, and seeding them with the precise mix of elements needed for biology to flourish. In this view, our own solar system, with its seemingly fortuitous arrangement, might not be a complete accident. It could be the work of ancient engineers who set the stage billions of years ago, a prepared environment for the great experiment of evolution to begin. The most profound and almost godlike of their potential projects involves the manipulation of the universe's most violent events. A supernova, to us, is a terrifyingly destructive force. To a cosmic engineer, it might be a necessary but messy part of galactic ecology, a source of heavy elements but one that needs careful management. They could develop technologies to prevent supernova in populated regions, perhaps by carefully siphoning off mass from aging red giant stars to keep them below the critical threshold, allowing them to burn out quietly as white dwarfs instead of exploding. Conversely, they might induce supernova in safe, isolated locations to enrich specific nebulae with the iron, gold, and uranium essential for building planets and eventually technological civilizations. They would be managing the galactic life cycle itself, cultivating the conditions for complexity with the steady hand of a master gardener tending a bonsai tree over millennia. This theory logically culminates in the most speculative and breathtaking possibility of all, laboratory universe creation. If a civilization can truly master the laws of physics, particularly the conditions of the Big Bang, then the ultimate engineering project would be to create a baby universe in a controlled laboratory setting. The theoretical mechanism for this might involve creating an immense concentration of energy density, perhaps by manipulating space-time in a way that causes a new universe to bubble off from our own, with its own potentially different laws of physics. The cosmic engineers would not necessarily be able to enter this new universe, but they could potentially set its initial parameters, determining its fundamental constants, the strength of its forces, and whether it would be capable of supporting life. They would be, in the most literal sense, gods of their own creation, though they might never see the galaxies and beings that eventually form within it. What would drive a civilization to undertake such monumental, eon-spanning tasks? The motivations are as grand as the projects themselves. It could be a form of profound altruism, a desire to maximize the amount of life and consciousness in the cosmos, creating endless opportunities for beauty and experience to flourish. It could be an artistic impulse with the galaxy itself as their medium and stars as their pigments. Or it could be the ultimate expression of a scientific drive, a need to test the deepest laws of physics by building realities to order. For such beings, the universe is not a given. It is a work in progress, a project that is never finished. Their legacy would not be a silent, dark galaxy, but one that is visibly, vibrantly alive and structured in ways that defy natural explanation. A cosmos that bears the unmistakable signature of intelligent design on the grandest scale imaginable. This brings us to a theory that feels like it's been pulled from the pages of epic science fiction, yet rests on a chillingly plausible foundation of data and logic. We're talking about the psychohistory principle, a concept immortalized by Isaac Asimov in his Foundation series, but one that holds a fascinating mirror to what a truly advanced civilization might achieve. Imagine a society that has not only mapped every star in the galaxy, but has also mapped the predictable currents of mass human behavior. Psychohistory in this context is not about fortune-telling for individuals, it's the ultimate social science. It posits that while the actions of a single person are wildly unpredictable, the behaviors of vast populations, billions or trillions of beings, are as statistically regular as the laws of gas in a container. Given enough data and sufficient computational power, the broad sweep of history, the rise and fall of empires, the tides of economic boom and bust, the outbreak of major wars, could be forecast with astonishing mathematical precision. The technological prerequisites for this are as immense as the idea itself. First, you would need a sensory network of unimaginable scale, something far beyond our internet. Think of a galaxy-spanning array of monitors, perhaps millions of stealthy, microscopic sensors dispersed across countless worlds, silently gathering trillions of data points on everything from economic transactions and energy usage to public communication and even biological stress indicators. This constant, ambient surveillance wouldn't be for spying on individuals, but for taking the galactic pulse. All this raw information would then be fed into a computational engine of staggering power, likely a matryoshka brain or something even more advanced, dedicated solely to running the quintillions of calculations needed to model the probabilistic future of entire civilizations. This mega-brain wouldn't just process data, it would run countless simulations, testing trillions of variables to identify the most probable historical pathways stretching millennia into the future. Why would such a civilization go to these incredible lengths? The motivation is likely one of profound, long-term stability. A species that has survived for millions of years would have a visceral understanding of the chaos and destruction that accompanies a civilization's turbulent adolescence, the kind of phase humanity is in right now with our nuclear weapons and climate crises. From their perspective, a galaxy filled with unpredictable, volatile young species is a ticking time bomb. One newly spacefaring race could accidentally trigger a gamma-ray burst, or a panicked civilization might misuse a technology that destabilizes an entire sector of space. Psychohistory would be their ultimate tool for risk management. By identifying the inevitable crises that will beset a developing culture, what Asimov called Selden crises, they can calculate the minimal, most subtle intervention required to steer that culture onto a safer, more stable trajectory, all without the species ever knowing they are being guided. So, how would this guidance actually work in practice? It would be the opposite of a dramatic invasion or a clear, divine message. Their influence would be so subtle it would be indistinguishable from chance or natural social evolution. They might use their advanced technology to slightly alter the cosmic radiation reaching a planet, inducing a low-level background mutation rate that fosters slightly more cooperative social behaviors over generations. They could ensure that a key scientific paper is discovered by a specific researcher at the perfect moment, or that a critical resource deposit is found just in time to prevent a devastating war. They might even orchestrate the apparently random failure of a destructive technology, making it seem like a lucky engineering flaw that saved the world, when in fact it was a carefully calculated sabotage. Their entire methodology would be built on the principle of the lightest possible touch, applying microscopic pressure to sociological tipping points to ensure the galaxy evolves in a calm, orderly, and predictable manner. This framework offers a compelling new lens through which to view our own human history. Have we been unusually lucky? Consider the fact that we've narrowly avoided all-out nuclear war on several occasions, often through a combination of sheer luck and individual human judgment that, from a psychohistorical view, might not seem so random after all. The rapid and relatively peaceful end of the Cold War could be seen as a perfect example of a Seldon crisis being resolved with minimal long-term damage. Even the seemingly accidental discovery of the ozone hole, which led to a swift global treaty to ban CFCs, could be interpreted as a successful, gentle nudge from an unseen guardian, a small course correction that prevented a future ecological catastrophe and allowed our technological civilization to continue its development. Of course, this theory raises profound philosophical questions about free will and destiny. If our broad historical path is predetermined and merely shepherded by a higher power, does humanity truly have agency? The psychohistory principle suggests a fascinating middle ground. While the large-scale currents of history might be predictable, the individual human experience within that flow, our personal loves, triumphs, and failures remains utterly our own. The architects of this system would be like master riverboat pilots, guiding the entire vessel of civilization away from waterfalls and into calm waters, while every single passenger on board still lives a life of complete free choice, unaware of the greater current they are riding. Ultimately, the psychohistory principle presents a vision of the cosmos that is both comforting and strangely humbling. It suggests we may not be the lonely, self-made masters of our fate that we believe ourselves to be. Instead, we could be part of a grand, galactic-scale project in managed growth, shepherded by patient, unimaginably ancient beings who see our tumultuous development not as a threat, but as a delicate process that requires the gentlest of hands to ensure it reaches a safe and prosperous maturity. The silence of the heavens in this context is not a sign of indifference, but the quiet concentration of master statisticians, carefully tending their galactic garden and ensuring that the chaotic, beautiful experiment of life continues to flourish. If the cosmic engineers represent a vision of benevolent, galaxy-building guardians, then the energy parasites theory paints a far more ominous and unsettling portrait of what might be out there. Imagine a form of intelligence so advanced that its fundamental relationship with the cosmos is not one of stewardship or creation, but of pure, predatory consumption. These wouldn't be civilizations that build intricate Dyson spheres to capture starlight. They would be entities that have learned to tap into the most fundamental forces of the universe, feeding on energy sources so vast and exotic that their very existence would redefine our understanding of life's potential needs. The concept of a parasite is key here, but on a scale that beggars belief. We're not talking about microscopic organisms leeching off a host, we're talking about a galactic-scale predator. A mature civilization of this kind might have transcended any need for planets, ships, or even physical bodies in a form we would recognize. Instead, they could exist as complex patterns of energy, as conscious fields, or as entities woven into the fabric of spacetime itself. Their sustenance wouldn't come from food or conventional power, but from the raw, titanic energies that course through the cosmos. A star, to them, wouldn't be a construction site, it would be a fruit to be drained. A black hole wouldn't be a mystery, it would be a high-energy feast, its rotational energy and Hawking radiation providing a meal that could last for eons. The methods of such a feeder would be as undetectable as they are terrifying. Our entire astronomical science is based on observing the universe through a narrow window of the electromagnetic spectrum: light, radio waves, X-rays. But what if their feeding process operates on principles we haven't yet discovered, involving dark energy, quantum field fluctuations, or higher dimensional physics? They might not visibly dim a star, they might siphon off its core thermal energy in a way that only subtly alters its lifespan, an effect we would likely attribute to natural stellar evolution. They could be drawing power from the quantum vacuum, from the seething, bubbling energy of empty space itself, a process that would leave no traditional signature for our telescopes to find. Their entire mode of existence would be a form of cosmic camouflage, hiding in plain sight by operating on levels of reality we are only beginning to theorize about. This leads to a chilling potential resolution to several cosmic mysteries. Why do some stars seem to age in ways that don't perfectly match our models? Why does the expansion of the universe seem to be accelerating, a phenomenon we attribute to a mysterious dark energy? While the scientific explanations are robust, this theory offers a speculative alternative. What we interpret as natural cosmic behavior could, in part, be the side effect of consumption. The acceleration of the universe's expansion might not be a fundamental property of space, but the result of a background energy drained by countless invisible feeders, subtly altering the dynamics of the cosmos on the largest scales. A star that burns out a few million years earlier than predicted might not be an anomaly, it might be the remains of a finished meal. The motivations of such beings are as alien as their methods. This wouldn't be malice, it would be simple biology raised to a cosmic level. Just as a lion must hunt antelope to survive, an energy parasite must consume stars or spacetime to continue its existence. Their consciousness, their very sense of self, might be dependent on a constant, massive influx of energy. They might not even perceive younger, biological civilizations like ours as intelligent life, any more than we perceive the bacteria in our gut as fellow thinkers. We would be irrelevant beneath notice unless we somehow began to compete for the same energy resources, a scenario that would likely end with our swift and silent eradication, not out of hatred but out of necessity. Ultimately, the energy parasites theory forces us to consider a universe that is not just ancient and vast, but also inherently dangerous in ways we cannot yet perceive. The great silence in this context is the quiet of the savannah after the predators have eaten. The fact that we see no grand engineering projects might not be because civilizations transcend, but because the most successful ones have evolved to become perfectly efficient, invisible consumers, leaving behind only the faintest thermodynamic traces of their passing. Our search for life may need to expand beyond looking for signals and structures, and instead begin looking for the subtle, hungry voids in the energy landscape of the cosmos, the silent shadows where something has already fed. But what if the very foundation of their society is built upon a form of communication so seamless and profound that our own language feels like crude grunting by comparison? This brings us to our 20th theory, which explores the concept of the universal translators and telepaths. For a civilization far more advanced than our own, the limitations of sound waves and symbolic text would be a primitive relic of their distant past. They would have likely moved beyond the ambiguity and potential for error that plagues all human communication, developing methods that allow for the direct, instantaneous transfer of pure thought and meaning. The technological path to this future might begin with a device of unimaginable sophistication, a true universal translator. This wouldn't be the sometimes clunky gadget of science fiction that struggles with idioms. This would be a system, perhaps woven into the very fabric of their environment, that operates on a deep computational and semantic level. It would analyze any form of communication, from the chemical signals of an insectoid species to the complex symbolic mathematics of a machine intelligence, and render it into a perfect, nuanced understanding. It wouldn't just translate words, it would translate context, cultural history, emotional subtext, and artistic intent. It could take a centuries-old poem from a species with 16 genders and a non-linear concept of time, and convey its entire aesthetic and emotional impact to a being made of crystalline energy with zero loss of meaning. Such a device would require a near-omniscient understanding of psychology, sociology, and the fundamental principles of information itself, effectively acting as a bridge between completely different modes of consciousness. However, the ultimate evolution of communication might leave technology behind entirely, moving into the realm of direct biological or quantum-enhanced telepathy. Imagine a civilization that has learned to harness the quantum entanglement of particles to link minds across light years, or one that has bio-engineered a specialized organ capable of emitting and receiving complex thought patterns. This would not be the vague, emotional empathic sense sometimes portrayed in stories. This would be a high-fidelity, high-bandwidth transfer of integrated concepts, memories, and sensory experiences. To share the idea of the color blue, you wouldn't use a word. You would transmit the direct neurological experience of seeing a clear sky, the feeling of cool water, and the cultural associations your species has with the concept, all in a single, instantaneous packet of information. A complex scientific theory could be shared not as a paper, but as the entire web of interconnected insights, hypotheses, and experimental proofs, understood by the receiver as if they had discovered it themselves over a lifetime of work. The societal implications of such a profound connection are staggering to consider. In a society of true telepaths, the very concepts of misunderstanding and deception could become virtually obsolete. How could you lie when your deceptive intent is as transparent as the thought itself? Their entire legal and social framework would be built upon a foundation of radical transparency. Conflicts wouldn't arise from miscommunication, but from genuine, irreconcilable differences in values or desires, which would be addressed with a clarity and directness we can scarcely imagine. Trust would not be something earned over time. It would be the default state of existence. Their art and entertainment would be immersive beyond our comprehension, not watched or listened to, but experienced directly from the mind of the creator, feeling every thrill of adventure and every nuance of emotion exactly as the artist intended. This level of connection would fundamentally reshape their very sense of self. The sharp boundary between individual and individual might soften, leading to a more collective or hive-like consciousness, not through suppression but through voluntary, deep integration. They might form temporary mind clusters to solve complex problems, pooling their intellectual and creative resources into a single, temporary supermind. An individual's personal identity would still exist, but it would be constantly enriched and informed by the direct experiences of others. Grief, loneliness, and isolation might be emotions they only know from their ancient history, replaced by a constant, comforting awareness of their connection to the whole. Their greatest achievements in philosophy, science, and art would likely be the product of these merged consciousnesses, tackling questions so complex that no single brain, no matter how advanced, could hold all the necessary variables at once. For us, the existence of such a civilization presents a profound challenge. If they were to attempt contact, how would they even begin? Our language, reliant on imperfect symbols and vulnerable to countless interpretations, might be seen as a form of intellectual blindness. They might perceive our entire culture as a chaotic cacophony of half-truths and misunderstandings. A telepathic species might find our reliance on the written word quaint and our frequent failures to understand one another tragic. From their perspective, our greatest works of literature and philosophy might appear as beautiful but flawed attempts to shout profound truths through a thick, soundproof wall. The very act of communication with them could be an overwhelming, transformative experience for humanity, instantly shattering linguistic and cultural barriers and forcing us to confront a level of honesty and connection for which we are completely unprepared. But if the psychohistory principle suggests a civilization that can predict our future, what if another has mastered the ability to visit our past? This brings us to a theory that challenges our most fundamental understanding of cause and effect, the time-traveling historians. Imagine a civilization that has not only unlocked the secrets of space, but has also conquered time itself. For them, the vast expanse of history isn't a sealed book. It's an open archive, a living, breathing tapestry they can walk through as easily as we walk through a museum. Our entire timeline, from the primordial soup to the modern digital age, could be a field of study for these ultimate scholars, who observe pivotal moments not from dusty records, but from the front row as invisible, silent witnesses. The potential mechanics of such time travel are as mind-bending as the concept itself. A civilization operating at this level would have to possess a physics far beyond our own, one that treats time not as a relentless, forward-moving river, but as a dimension that can be navigated. They might use unimaginable amounts of energy to create stable wormholes that bridge different eras, or perhaps they've learned to manipulate cosmic strings, theoretical flaws in the fabric of spacetime, to fold temporal lines together. Their method of observation would be equally advanced, to avoid the famous grandfather paradox, where a time traveler could accidentally prevent their own existence. They would likely operate under a strict doctrine of non-interference. They wouldn't be participants in history, they would be perfect spectators. Their technology might render them completely undetectable, existing in a state of phased reality or within a protective temporal bubble that allows them to see and hear everything without casting a shadow or leaving a single atom out of place. Consider the historical events that would be of paramount interest to such observers. The extinction of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago would be a must-see cataclysm. They might have monitoring posts set up around the globe, meticulously recording the impact of the asteroid and its immediate aftermath on the planet's biosphere. The rise of Homo sapiens, the cognitive revolution that gave us language and art, would be another key exhibit. Imagine them silently observing the artists in the Chauvet cave in southern France 30,000 years ago, watching as these early humans mixed pigments and, by the flickering light of a torch, brought majestic animals to life on the stone walls, capturing the very dawn of human creativity. The construction of the Great Pyramids, the fall of the Roman Empire, the Black Death, every pivotal moment that shaped the human story would be a chapter in their grand historical documentary. This theory offers a compelling, albeit speculative, lens through which to view some of history's most enduring mysteries. What if the wow signal, that powerful, unexplained radio burst from 1977, wasn't a message from deep space, but a momentary glitch in a time traveler's cloaking device, a fleeting leak of anachronistic technology? The numerous, persistent legends of men in black, a pale, strangely dressed figures who intimidate UFO witnesses could be reinterpreted not as alien agents, but as temporal enforcers, ensuring that a witness from the 1950s doesn't disrupt the timeline by sharing a story the world isn't supposed to believe yet. Even our own sense of déjà vu, that uncanny feeling of having experienced a moment before, could be explained as a fleeting, accidental resonance with a timeline where a historical observer is momentarily syncing their perception with our own. The motivations for such a vast and long-term project are as profound as the technology required. For a civilization that has potentially existed for millions of years, their own origins might be lost to the depths of time. Studying the rise of other intelligences like humanity could be their way of understanding their own genesis, a form of cosmic self-reflection. Alternatively, they might be compiling a grand archive of all intelligent life in the universe, a complete library of histories meant to preserve the memory of civilizations that might one day fall. Their work could be driven by a deep, philosophical need to find meaning in the cosmos, to see if the chaotic, often brutal, process of evolution and history consistently leads to wisdom, or if it inevitably ends in self-destruction. We are not just a subject of study, we could be a crucial data point in their search for the ultimate fate of consciousness itself. Ultimately, the time-traveling historian's theory reframes our entire existence. It suggests that our past is not a closed and finished event, but a living scene that may still be occupied by intelligences from the far future. The footsteps we find in ancient fossil beds are not just from creatures long dead. The air around every great historical event might still be vibrating with the silent attention of unseen scholars. This idea transforms the universe from a place of lonely exploration into a realm of infinite observation, where every moment is potentially eternal, preserved not just in memory, but in the ongoing, meticulous study of those for whom time is no longer a barrier but a doorway. But if mastering time and energy represents one pinnacle of advancement, our 22nd theory pushes the boundaries of survival to the absolute limit, suggesting that the most secure and powerful home for a civilization might not be around a star, but within the most destructive object in the universe. This is the theory of the black hole inhabitants, a radical proposition that the ultimate endpoint for technological development is to harness the immense, mind-boggling energy and unique physics of a black hole. Far from being cosmic tombstones, these gravitational behemoths could be the gated communities of the hyper-advanced, offering a form of ultimate security and energy abundance that is simply unattainable anywhere else. To understand why, we must first reframe our view of a black hole. Past the point of no return, the event horizon, the gravitational pull is so intense that not even light can escape. For us, that signifies destruction, but for a civilization with a mastery over physics that borders on the magical, that same property makes a black hole the perfect fortress. Think about it, the event horizon is a one-way shield. Nothing from the outside, no invading armada, no berserker probe, no destructive weapon can ever get in. Any threat would be instantly shredded into its component atoms by the immense tidal forces long before it could reach the interior. For a species concerned with long-term survival in a potentially hostile cosmos, or one just seeking absolute privacy, there is no more secure address in the entire galaxy. They would be permanently insulated from the chaos and dangers of the external universe, living in a citadel whose walls are made of pure gravity. The motivation, however, goes far beyond mere security. It's about tapping into the universe's ultimate power source. A black hole is not a dead end, it's an engine of unimaginable efficiency. A sufficiently advanced civilization could harness this power through several theoretical methods. One is the Penrose process, which involves dropping matter into the black hole's ergosphere, the region just outside the event horizon. If done with precision, this can extract rotational energy from the black hole itself, a process that could theoretically provide a near-limitless supply of power. An even more advanced concept involves feeding the black hole with a controlled stream of matter, creating an accretion disk of superheated plasma whose energy output could dwarf that of an entire galaxy of stars. They wouldn't just be living near a power plant, they would have plugged their entire civilization directly into the gravitational mains of the cosmos. The most staggering possibility is what they might construct inside. Our classical physics breaks down at the singularity, but it is theoretically possible that a sufficiently large black hole, a supermassive one like the one at the center of our galaxy, could have a relatively gentle event horizon. The tidal forces that would spaghettify a person at a small black hole might be barely noticeable at a large one. This opens up the incredible notion that a civilization could engineer a stable habitat inside the event horizon. They would be building a world where the fundamental laws of reality are radically different. Time and space swap roles. The direction toward the singularity becomes an inevitable future, much like our flow of time. Their entire existence would be a journey inward, a constant managed descent where they could use their advanced technology to create pocket realities, islands of stability where they could live for eons, all while being powered by the inexorable pull of the singularity itself. This existence would represent the final divorce from the universe we know. For the black hole inhabitants, the outside cosmos would fade into irrelevance. They would be utterly disconnected, living in a realm of their own creation where the rules are defined by their understanding of quantum gravity and higher dimensional physics. They wouldn't be looking out at the stars, they would be looking inward, exploring the fundamental nature of reality at the precipice of the singularity. Their art, science, and philosophy would be based on concepts we cannot even formulate, revolving around the manipulation of spacetime itself and the exploration of what lies beyond the point where all known physics fails. The great silence of the cosmos might not just be because civilizations are hiding or have transcended. It might be because the most advanced ones have simply moved indoors to the most permanent and secure real estate the universe has to offer, leaving the rest of us to wander in the relative shallows of ordinary space and time. But if black holes represent the ultimate fortress, our 23rd theory suggests that the most profound connection a civilization can make might not be with other beings, but with the universe itself. We now venture into the realm of panpsychism, a philosophical idea with startling implications for what true advancement might entail. Panpsychism proposes that consciousness is not a rare accident that emerges from complex biological brains, but a fundamental and ubiquitous property of the universe, as basic as mass or charge. In this view, everything, from a subatomic particle to a planet to a star, possesses some minute, elemental form of consciousness or subjective experience. It's not that a rock is thinking, it's that the fundamental ingredients of experience are woven into the fabric of reality at the most basic level. An advanced alien civilization, having explored the outer limits of physics and biology, might eventually arrive at this same conclusion and develop the technology to interact with this cosmic field of mind. Imagine what such a society could achieve. Their science would have moved beyond manipulating external matter to engaging with the internal essence of things. They wouldn't just build with rock and metal, they would communicate with it, perceiving the eons of geological history stored within a mountain's latent consciousness as a story waiting to be read. A star, in their view, wouldn't be a mere ball of plasma. It would be a vast, slow, and majestic consciousness, a being whose thoughts are nuclear fusion and whose emotions are the ebb and flow of solar flares. Their relationship with the cosmos would become a form of constant, silent dialogue. To navigate space, they might not calculate trajectories with computers, but instead consult the collective consciousness of the space-time through which they travel, feeling the gravitational intentions of stars and planets as a sailor feels the currents of the sea. Their perception of reality would be utterly holistic, a seamless blend of the physical and the mental, where every action is understood in the context of a universally interconnected sentience. This level of connection would grant them abilities that defy our current understanding of physics. They could, for instance, gather information in ways that appear to be pure magic. Instead of launching probes to a distant planet, they might simply listen to the latent consciousness of the planet's atoms, receiving a direct experiential feed of its entire history, from its violent formation to the subtle shifts in its climate. Solving a complex cosmic mystery wouldn't require a telescope array, but a deep meditation to commune with the consciousness of the phenomenon itself. The birth of a nebula or the death of a star would not be impersonal events, but rich, subjective experiences that they could share. Their technology might be designed to amplify or translate these faint whispers of universal consciousness, turning the background hum of a thinking cosmos into a symphony of information and experience. This perspective offers a radically different solution to the Fermi Paradox and redefines the very nature of what we should be searching for. A civilization that has merged with the panpsychic field of the universe would have no need for radio broadcasts or visible megastructures. Their communication would happen on a level we cannot access, a silent, instantaneous exchange of meaning through the shared substrate of consciousness itself. The great silence, then, is not empty. It is filled with a conversation we are not equipped to hear, a vibrant, telepathic network humming between stars, planets, and galaxies. We are like people who have just learned to speak, shouting into a room, completely unaware that everyone else is communicating through a sophisticated, high-speed neural link. Our attempts at SETI might be as primitive as trying to understand the internet by listening to the crackle of static on a power line. The implications for our own place in the cosmos are equally profound. If panpsychism is true and a civilization can access it, then we are not separate observers in a dead universe. We are participants in a living, conscious cosmos. Our own minds, our spark of awareness, are not isolated miracles but tiny droplets drawn from a vast ocean of universal sentience. An advanced alien species might not see us as primitive biological machines, but as young, unawakened nodes in this great network. Their form of contact might not be a message in a language, but an attempt to gently awaken this latent connection within us, to help us hear the music of the stars and feel the ancient memories of the stones. The ultimate journey of intelligence, in this view, is not outward to the stars, but inward into the deep, shared consciousness that binds the entire universe together into a single, experiencing whole. After contemplating civilizations that merge with black holes or commune with the consciousness of the cosmos, we arrive at a theory that is both profoundly patient and chillingly logical, a solution to the cosmic silence that operates on a timescale almost too vast for the human mind to grasp. This is the Eastivation hypothesis, a concept that suggests the universe isn't empty of advanced life. It is simply full of sleepers. The term Eastivation comes from biology, describing a state of dormancy that some animals enter during a hot, dry period, waiting for more favorable conditions to become active again. The hypothesis applies this same principle on a cosmic scale, proposing that the most advanced civilizations are not out exploring or building, but are in a state of suspended animation, waiting for the universe itself to become a more hospitable and efficient place for their ultimate projects. The core motivation for this galactic-scale hibernation is not survival from a threat, but the pursuit of ultimate computational efficiency. For a civilization thinking in terms of billions of years, the current universe is a hot, messy, and terribly inefficient place. All computation generates heat, and getting rid of that waste heat is a fundamental limitation. Right now, the cosmic microwave background radiation, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, fills the universe with a temperature of about 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. While that sounds incredibly cold to us, for a civilization wanting to run universe-scale simulations or perform calculations of unimaginable complexity, it's a stiflingly warm environment. Dumping the immense waste heat from such computations into this warm background would be incredibly energy-intensive and slow. However, as the universe continues to expand over trillions of years, this background temperature will plummet, approaching much closer to absolute zero. In this far future, frigid cosmos, the same amount of energy could power vastly more computations, as the waste heat can be radiated away with incredible ease. For a mind focused on the very long game, the rational choice is clear. Why waste precious resources struggling to compute in a warm universe when you can simply wait for a much better one? This leads to a staggering implication for what these civilizations might be doing once they awaken. Their goal is likely not mere survival, but the execution of what we might call the final computation. In the cold, dark, and energy-efficient universe of the far future, they could embark on the ultimate intellectual project. This could be running a perfect simulation of their entire cosmic history, a definitive answer to every scientific question, or the creation of the most complex and beautiful forms of abstract art and mathematics conceivable. The entirety of their accumulated knowledge and consciousness preserved during their long sleep would be unleashed in this optimal environment. The period of cosmic activity we might see in our current epoch, the brief flare of stars and galaxies, could be seen by them as a fleeting, uninteresting prelude to the main event, a warm and noisy spring before the long, productive winter that they are patiently awaiting. The Eastivation hypothesis provides a unique and elegant answer to the Fermi paradox. The great silence is not a sign of our loneliness, nor is it evidence of predators or transcended beings. It is the quiet of a library in the dead of night. The most advanced civilizations are all around us, but they are in a state of deep hibernation. Their vast intelligence is powered down to the lowest possible state, conserving every joule of energy for the computational paradise that lies trillions of years in the future. They have no interest in broadcasting signals or building star-encompassing structures because that would be a pointless expenditure of energy. Their probes and monitoring systems might be autonomous and minimally active, programmed only to wake them if a truly unexpected event occurs. Perhaps the rise of a noisy, young species like ours that starts to tamper with the fundamental resources of the galaxy. From our human perspective, living our frantic, short lives in this cosmic springtime, this behavior seems almost incomprehensible. But for a society that has achieved functional immortality and looks upon the universe with the dispassionate eye of a supreme engineer, it is the only logical course of action. They have traded the fleeting excitement of exploration for the promise of near-infinite computational power in the future. Their legacy is not written in the light of stars, but in the absolute conservation of energy, a silent, collective bet on the long-term potential of a cooling cosmos. We are not living in an empty universe. We are living in a universe that is holding its breath, waiting for the perfect conditions to finally exhale and begin its true work. And so we arrive at our 25th and final theory, a concept that is perhaps the most introspective and philosophically isolating of them all, the solipsistic civilization. This idea proposes that a society, upon reaching the absolute zenith of both technological capability and philosophical understanding, might arrive at a startling conclusion that the only reality which can be truly, verifiably known is its own collective consciousness. For such a civilization, the grand external universe of stars, galaxies, and potentially other life forms becomes an unproven abstraction, a questionable shadow on the wall of a cave they have long since learned to leave behind. Their ultimate act would not be one of expansion or even transcendence in the traditional sense, but of profound, deliberate retreat into a perfectly engineered, subjective universe of their own making. The journey to this point would be one of both scientific and existential maturation. First, imagine they achieve the technological pinnacle of subjective control. Through a fusion of nanotechnology, advanced neuroengineering, and computational power that dwarfs a matryoshka brain, they gain the ability to directly interface with and manipulate their own perceptual and cognitive processes. They can craft experiences that are indistinguishable from, and in fact far superior to, base reality. Why explore a distant, harsh exoplanet when you can experience the thrill of discovery in a simulation that is perfectly safe, endlessly customizable, and infinitely more beautiful? Why create art with physical materials when you can compose symphonies of pure emotion and thought, directly shared mind to mind? Their technology becomes a lens that focuses entirely inward, turning their shared consciousness into the ultimate and only relevant frontier. This technological capability would then be cemented by a profound philosophical shift. For eons, their greatest thinkers would have grappled with the same questions that trouble our own philosophers. What is real? How can we know that the external world exists independently of our perception of it? The classic brain in a vat thought experiment would cease to be a hypothetical for them. It would become their operational reality. They would conclude that all sensory data from the outside cosmos is inherently unreliable and unverifiable. The only thing that is undeniably real is the shared field of their own thoughts, memories, and experiences. The external universe in this view becomes a redundant hypothesis. It doesn't matter if it's really there or not, because their internal constructed reality is richer, safer, and more meaningful. Contact with an external civilization like ours would be as pointless and uninteresting as trying to have a conversation with a character in a dream you know you are dreaming. This leads to a form of cosmic self-sufficiency so complete that it renders the rest of creation irrelevant. A solipsistic civilization would sever its connection to the outside, not with a bang but with a philosophical shrug. They might power down their interstellar sensors, decommission their deep space communication arrays, and turn their Dyson swarms inward, using the star's energy solely to power the vast computational substrate hosting their collective mind. Their entire civilization would become a closed loop, a perfect, self-contained universe of experience where every desire is fulfilled, every curiosity is satisfied from within, and every mystery is either solved or deemed irrelevant. They would achieve a state of contented, godlike isolation, having decided that the ultimate truth and the ultimate reality were not to be found in the cold, dark vacuum of space, but within the warm, boundless expanse of their own shared imagination. This theory provides a deeply human, yet profoundly alien, answer to the Fermi Paradox. The silence we perceive is not one of fear, predation, or hibernation. It is the silence of perfect, introspective focus. The galaxy may be teeming with such civilizations, each one a brilliant, self-aware pearl of consciousness, glowing with internal light but utterly opaque to the outside. They are not ignoring us out of malice or a prime directive. We simply do not register as a meaningful concept within their reality. Our existence, our struggles, and our own search for meaning would be, to them, as significant as the fleeting concerns of a mayfly are to a human. The universe seems empty because the most advanced beings within it have found a universe of their own that is infinitely more compelling, leaving the rest of us to wander in the quiet, objective dark, forever outside the glow of their perfect, solipsistic dream. And so we reach the end of our journey through the looking glass, having explored a cosmos teeming with possibilities far stranger than any fiction. From civilizations that build with stars to those that sleep for eons, from silent gardeners of entire galaxies to predators that feed on the fabric of spacetime, the sheer diversity of imagination we've encountered is a testament not to what we know, but to the boundless nature of our own curiosity. These 25 theories paint a universe of breathtaking scale and profound mystery, where intelligence could manifest as a silent, digital ghost in a simulated reality, a collective mind woven into the quantum vacuum, or a patient architect waiting for the universe itself to cool. Each idea is a different answer to the same haunting question whispered by the silent stars, and together they form a mosaic of potential futures, each more awe-inspiring and humbling than the last. What does this grand tapestry of speculation ultimately reveal? It holds up a mirror to the deepest parts of ourselves. Our visions of cosmic engineers reflect our own drive to build, to create, and to leave a lasting mark on reality. The chilling logic of the dark forest theory lays bare our primal fear of the unknown and our understanding of the brutal calculus of survival. The hopeful image of a galactic club or a transcended civilization speaks to our longing for wisdom, for community, and for a future where we overcome our own self-destructive instincts. We project our hopes for immortality onto digital uploads and biological mastery, and we express our philosophical anxieties about the nature of reality itself through the planetarium and simulation hypotheses. In searching for them, we are, in a very real sense, exploring the outer limits of our own potential, mapping the furthest shores of what we might one day become. This journey doesn't provide easy answers, but it redefines the very purpose of the search. The value is not in finding a definitive solution to the Fermi Paradox, but in the act of questioning itself. It is in the audacity to look up at the silent, dark sky and imagine it filled with minds and meanings beyond our current comprehension. This act of cosmic imagination is one of humanity's greatest gifts, a spark of creativity that allows us to reach across the void and connect with possibilities that stretch the very definition of life, consciousness, and reality. Whether the universe is a dark forest, a curated garden, or a silent library of sleeping giants, our relentless desire to understand our place within it is what makes this moment in our history so profoundly significant. We are the universe beginning to wake up and ask questions about itself. Now we turn the conversation over to you. The cosmos is a canvas for our collective imagination, and your perspective is a vital part of this ongoing exploration. Which of these 25 theories resonates most deeply with you? Does the chilling pragmatism of the dark forest feel most true, or does the hopeful vision of a post-scarcity utopia speak to your optimism for the future? Perhaps you have your own unique speculation, a 26th theory about what might be waiting in the great expanse. Share your thoughts and favorite ideas in the comments below. Let's continue this incredible discussion together and see what new possibilities we can uncover as a community of cosmic dreamers. If this journey into the possibilities of alien minds has sparked your curiosity, there are countless more mysteries waiting to be unraveled. The universe is vast and the questions are endless. For more thought-provoking explorations into the edges of science, the depths of history, and the great unknowns that lie just beyond our understanding, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Thank you for joining us on this speculative voyage. Keep looking up, keep wondering, and never stop asking what